New York is suffering from a crisis, and it's called halalflation. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of this.
We are often deceived by
How much does a
politicians,
plate of halal cost
not
right now?
because
This
they
one.
are so bold and persuasive, but because we lack common
$10?
sense.
When you're a street vendor,
In 2025, while filming a campaign video for the New York City mayoral election, Zohran Mamdani interviewed a food truck owner on the street. He first praised a $10 fast food meal, then asked the owner about costs, skillfully prompting the owner to reveal that he had rented the food truck permit for approximately $20,000 per year.
And who is this?
According to New York City government regulations, the issuance of street food cart licenses is subject to a quota. If the food cart owner were to apply directly to the city government, the fee would be $400 per year. However, due to the high number of applicants, this owner was ranked around 3,800th in line, so he had no choice but to rent the operating license from someone who already held the permit.
These are the 4 bills that are sitting in the city council right now, which would give these vendors their own permits and make your halal more affordable. But Eric Adams hasn't said a single word about them. If you own the permit, then how much would you charge for the plate?
$7, $8.
$8.
Would you rather pay $10 for a plate of halal or $8?
$8.
$8.
I think $8 is the way to go.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day one to make halal $8 again.
No, how would you pay?
Zohran Mamdani, therefore, confidently assured everyone that if he were elected mayor of New York, he would ensure that this vendor could obtain a license for $400 and reduce the cost of fast food to less than $8. How considerate, how perfect truly a leader of the people. It's almost enough to bring tears to my eyes. Hold on, let's ask Mr. Mamdani a few more questions. Is he only issuing a license to this one food truck owner? Or does he plan to issue licenses to him and the 3,800 owners ahead of him in line? What about those further back in the queue? When the street is filled with food trucks, how will people go through? Has Zohran Mamdani considered that when the streets are impassable and no one is walking by? Not to mention the annual $400 license fee. Even a $4 fee wouldn't entice anyone to claim this devalued food truck license. Today, we will give Mr. Mamdani, a good leader who loves the people, a basic understanding of economics. Garrett James Hardin was an American ecologist and microbiologist. His primary area of research was the concept that the damage that innocent actions by individuals can inflict on the environment. He referred to this as the first law of human ecology. His intense love for nature led him to develop a loathing for humanity. This may be the origin of contemporary overprotective environmentalist ideas, which seem to suggest that humans should not exist in this beautiful natural world. They adhere to the principle that we can never do merely one thing. Any intrusion into nature has numerous effects, many of which are unpredictable. Garrett Hardin thus became an extreme eugenicist. He opposed inferior races and immigration. I believe Zohran Mamdani, like me, firmly opposes his frank in their racism and quasi-fascist ethno-nationalism. Extreme aversion often causes us to overlook the brilliant ideas in others. This is why I repeatedly emphasize that political stance is a shackle on thought. When engaging in rational discussion, we must remember what Arno will told. Break free from the shackles of our political stance and just explore ideas with our minds, with reason, not emotion. In 1968, Garrett Hardin published his seminal article, The Tragedy of the Commons, which alone is enough to ensure his place in the annals of human thought. Strictly speaking, his main contribution was to summarize and name the ideas proposed by British economist William Forster Lloyd in his 1833 work, Two Lectures on the Checks to Population.
If a person puts more cattle into his own field, the amount of the subsistence which they consume is all deducted from that which was at the command of his original stock. And if, before, there was no more than a sufficiency of pasture, he reaps no benefit from the additional cattle, what is gained in one way being lost in another. But if he puts more cattle on a common, the food which they consume forms a deduction which is shared between all the cattle, as well that of others as his own, in proportion to their number, and only a small part of it is taken from his own cattle. In an enclosed pasture, there is a point of saturation, if I may so call it, by which I mean a barrier depending on considerations of interest, beyond which no prudent man will add to his stock. In a common, also, there is in like manner a point of saturation. But the position of the point in the two cases is obviously different. Were a number of adjoining pastures, already fully stocked, to be at once thrown open, and converted into one vast common, the position of the point of saturation would immediately be changed.
William Lloyd focused primarily on the issue of marginal benefits in economics. Hardin, however, truly distilled the insight that we all recognize today: the serious harm caused by public property rights.
Therein is the tragedy. Each man is locked into a system that compels him to increase his herd without limit, in a world that is limited. Ruin is the destination toward which all men rush, each pursuing his own best interest in a society that believes in the freedom of the commons. Freedom in a commons brings ruin to all.
The core of the tragedy of the commons is the issue of property rights. When property rights are unclear or belong to the public domain, individuals will seek to maximize their gains by exploiting public resources to the fullest extent possible. Therefore, addressing the tragedy of the commons fundamentally involves resolving property rights. Today, all our pastures have been privatized. However, privatizing the oceans is extremely difficult. This is because demarcating ownership zones in the ocean, as well as the costs of patrolling and managing them, are too high. Perhaps one day, we could achieve Skynet coverage, using laser strikes from the sky to target fishing vessels invading private waters. But that might be another tragedy. Howard Scott Garden was a Canadian economist. In 1954, he published the groundbreaking article, Economic Theory of a Common Property Resource, the Fishery, proposing the use of individual fishing quotas as a method to address private property rights in marine resources. I have always emphasized that economics is more about common sense. Even without economist research, humans have long been exploring solutions to problems. As early as the 19th century, Europe had already established a hunting permit system. In 1901, the United States issued its first hunting permit in West Virginia. Whether through permits or quota systems, these approaches effectively address the issue of utilizing public resources that are difficult to privatize through private property rights. Licenses cannot be issued without restriction, as that would lead to a tragedy of the commons. Licenses are meant to restrict the abuse of public resources, so their number must be controlled based on the principles of limitation and effectiveness. This is why it is impossible to issue an unlimited number of licenses for food trucks in New York, and why Mamdani can boast about it but cannot actually make it happen for everyone. So what principles should be used to issue licenses, and how should they be distributed? Since it is a public resource, the issuance of licenses must be fair. Since it is a limited resource, the issuance of licenses must be efficient. Public resources, by their very nature, belong to all taxpayers, so the rules must be transparent and implemented at the lowest possible cost. While a lottery system can ensure fairness in license issuance at the lowest cost, it cannot guarantee efficiency. Requiring each applicant to submit proof of their effective use of resources, followed by public review and voting, would be too costly and would not truly prioritize efficiency. Therefore, adopting a license auction system is an economically sound method that is both low cost and efficient. The market is the wisest evaluator, eliminating the inefficient and rewarding the efficient. Thus, entrusting the market is essentially entrusting individuals to compete using the most honest methods. In the market, everyone knows the maximum fee they are willing to pay for a license. If Zohran Mamdani had chosen to be an honest politician and learned a little bit about economics, he would have known that if New York City auctioned off a mobile food vending license, he would have an idea of what the annual rent would be. Actually, in his video, the market has already provided the answer. Welcome to my channel. Let's explore why political means won't get you an $8 street food meal in New York, but can turn an $8 meal into an $80 one. Economic means make us wealthy, while political means only take away our wealth.